Welcome to another OU Insider YouTube, Under the Visor YouTube Live. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune, and I am in the state of Georgia in Atlanta, going out to see some of Oklahoma's top recruits. This week, Parker is holding down the fort in the state of Oklahoma and doing his radio show and working on OUinsider.com, covering all Oklahoma sports, whether it's basketball, football, baseball. You got it. We've got you covered on OU Insider. Before we get into everything, we got to quickly say this: 60% off in tonight for OU Insider membership for annual memberships. You get $108, $116 worth for like $42. And I don't know about anybody else, but that's a hell of a deal. And you get it for a whole year. And then after that, it rolls over and you pay, I don't believe you pay all 116, but you pay close to it. But you also get like $132 worth in value because you're going to get Paramount Plus with all the 1883. All that will be included in it after you're with the year, only because of promo. If you sign up full price, Paramount Plus comes with it, and you get all the glitz and the glam, the everything, the kit and the caboodle. Is that what they call it? The kit and the caboodle.
That is what they call it.
As far as what you get that encompasses the OU Insider package, which also comes with 250 247 sites. You can go visit every one of them. You can do that on the promo too. All 247 sites are included in that promo. Where you can go watch and troll Alabama, Texas A&M. It does Oklahoma State, Texas. You can do all that stuff if you sign up right now. So, and we've got all the big stuff that's coming along, whether it's Champion Barbecue, off-season stuff, obviously Brent Venables' first season coaching Oklahoma. We've got that covered for you on OU Insider, and we continue to grow at enormous rates, and that is because you, the OU fan, have made that happen. And I was looking at our numbers just the other day and blown away because you guys are the best. We can't thank you guys enough for being on OU Insider. Parker, Joey, myself, Spencer, Brian. We're blessed to be able to do that for you guys, and we want to continue to do that for you guys. So we hope you continue to join us because we're at record numbers as far as members go, and as far as traffic goes. Each and every month, we continue to break it, and it is because of you, the listener and the reader. And thank you. Parker, how you doing, man?
Good. Been some severe weather in Oklahoma today, so hopefully all our viewers out there are staying safe. But yeah, exciting time. Obviously, post spring, lots happening in the world of recruiting. New offers going out, coaches on the road. We saw the Sooners make a couple of new offers today. One going out to Jackson McGowan, the 3-star tight end out of the state of Ohio, and another. Yep, and another guy that we had hinted was maybe on the radar for Oklahoma as well, and indeed picked up an offer today was Calvin Simpson Hunt, the 4-star cornerback out of Waxahachie, who is committed to Texas Tech, but is blowing up with high-end P5 offers all across the country. Yeah, as of late, I believe that list includes Notre Dame, obviously Oklahoma as of today, but he has picked up Ole Miss and Utah in recent days. Florida offered as well. So it's one of the hottest commodities on the recruiting trail right now, the young man out of Waxahachie High School.
Yeah, look, Oklahoma is out on the recruiting trail. They're evaluating. They're doing everything that all the other coaches are. So they have everybody. I know a lot of people don't know this, but you get 30 days, okay? So the second that first coach goes out on the road, your 30-day allotment starts. As far as how long you can be out on the road evaluating. You got 10 coaches can be out evaluating, and that's it. Well, Oklahoma, because of OK Prep starting so late notoriously, as far as late May, mid-May, they decide, you know what we're going to do? We're going to wait until the end of April, right after spring. And that's why they pushed spring back, because they didn't want to get out on the road early. They didn't want the 30 days. So it doesn't matter if Oklahoma would have, I guess, started on April 9th and decided, oh, well, we're going to send a couple of guys out and they're going to go out for a week and then come back in and finish out spring ball. It does that. Your clock's ticking. So you're wasting days that you can be out on the road. So they did it really smart. That's why a lot of programs wait now until the end of April before they hit the road. Because of states like Oklahoma, states like Florida, states like Georgia, Alabama. The reason why I'm in Georgia now is because tomorrow they start spring ball. I'm going to CTA Cunningham, 5-star defensive lineman, 2024, 5-star defensive lineman, 5-star defensive lineman, Heaven Brown Schuler, 2023 4-star defensive lineman, Caden McDonald. I'll be able to see all three of those guys tomorrow. And then after that, it'll roll over to I'll be going to see Jalen Kilgore, 2023 defensive back that we all kind of think is going to end up being a 4-star. I'm going to go see several players. I don't have the whole list sitting right here in front of me, but it is Oklahoma's recruiting the hell out of the state of Georgia, and we're going to be in front of them. I've already done this routine once already this past winter, spring, and this is number 2 that I've gone around, and it helps us to be able to build these relationships. It helps Parker. If I have a relationship and say I'm on vacation, I tell the kid, hit Parker up, and I give the kid Parker's number. Parker builds a relationship with him. And then we all have it. It's an all-encompass, and that helps us continue to bring the information to you guys continuously for the foreseeable future as far as the recruiting goes. So there's a lot going on. The coaches are out evaluating. I know there's 3 or 4 OU coaches that are supposed to be in Georgia this week. I know tomorrow there's a couple that will be out seeing Heaven Brown Schuler, Bates, T.A. Cunningham, 2024 5-star defensive back, KJ Bolden. I mean, the list goes on. The state of Georgia has it because there's so much talent. Caleb Downs will be stopped by. I know Coach Belay should be out seeing him at some point in time as well, according to what I'm told, people at his school. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, and we'll be out there as well. So hopefully we'll be able to bring you some good information on OU Insider VIP. But as far as look, Oklahoma's waiting on a lock. They're waiting on a lock. Parker, what can we tell them about that lock? I know we both have a bunch of information on it, but we can only be so vague about it. Everybody kind of knows who it is, but how do we want to go about talking about that, man?
Well, first off, for the sake of clarity, there's one lock. There's not five. Okay.
This is
The
true.
other four, the previous commits. So for those that thought Oklahoma got 5 locks out of the spring game, obviously that would have been an ideal utopian situation, but that's not the case.
Hey,
One new lock. That said, they built a lot of momentum such that I think come June, July, which we talked about last week on this live, you're going to start to see Oklahoma pick up commitment after commitment. And that's really where the surge is going to happen. June, July, once these kids get out, get the chance to take official visits and realize, many of them, that there's not going to be an experience that they'll have that compares to what they experienced at Oklahoma for the spring game. And that appears to be a pretty common sentiment among the kids that we've talked to, Brand, the players we have relationships with. That's kind of been the prevailing narrative is that spring game spoke so loudly to them that there aren't strong odds that any school overcomes the lead that Oklahoma has built with some of those kids. And they're not going to get all of them. Obviously, they hosted 100+ prospects, and you would figure that the vast majority of those will be back at some point. But you look at guys like Caden Green, Derek LeBlanc, Peyton Kirkland, anonymous Lockman himself. These are the type of guys with which Oklahoma really made a strong impression and made a strong move at the spring game. Nigel Smith, the borderline 5-star defensive lineman in the class of 2024, is another one. So things continue to trend in a positive direction for Oklahoma in the aftermath. What's going to be interesting is, once visit season rolls around, once the evaluation period rolls around, a lot of these kids will pick up new offers. They'll get new interest from schools that hadn't really been in contact with them before, and the sands can shift a little bit. But consistency has been so key for this Oklahoma staff over the 4 or 5 months that they've been in place in Norman, and it'll continue to be paramount going forward. And if you can maintain that consistency and maintain those relationships, that's where you have the opportunity to make lasting change within your culture as a university and in the recruiting game in particular. That's where you have the opportunity to do something that other schools don't have the capacity to do relationally or don't have the willingness to do relationally. So everything's moving in the right direction, I would say, right now for OU. And I think it speaks volumes, for instance, that they ended up in the top 4 yesterday for a kid like Jaden Greathouse, who has kept his recruitment so close to the vest that he's only announced 13 offers. And Lord knows, Brandon, that kid has more than 13 offers.
The MVP of the what was it, the 6A1 state title game? Of course he does. Of course he does. He's one of the best wide receivers in the country. Absolutely. Notre Dame and Texas, though, are your odds-on betting favorites right now. But let's put it to this. And I know people are like, where's his mic? Where's his mic? I'm an idiot that brought the mic and didn't bring the plug part to the computer. So I got to go buy one at Best Buy tomorrow. So I apologize for those in the comments that are saying bring a mic next time. That's on me. That's my bad. I'll have one for the podcast later on this week. But yeah, I'm going to see him next week. I'm going to go see Jaden Greathouse. I'm going to go see Vasic. I'm going to go see a bunch of other guys down there in the Austin area, whether it's Michael Harrison Pilot, you name it. Oklahoma's offered several players in that region. So, but yeah, he's one of the best wide receivers in the country. He can also build up. I know he's only like 6'1", 6'2-ish, 6'3", maybe pushing it. So tight end, H-back, it's kind of pushing it. I think his body frame kind of ends up being a lot like a Jeremiah when it's all said and done. He's a really good basketball player as well, plays on Team Griffin, so he's around Norman all the time. Oklahoma's built a really strong relationship with him. It's just he's one of those tweeners they're trying to figure out where does he fit in the whole grand scheme for them, because is he going to end up being this H-back tight end type guy that Oklahoma's been notorious for being one of the programs that uses that on a down in and down out basis and does it really well, because not everybody uses that position. And look, Levy is really known for that type of stuff. I know the tight end usage last year was really lax and downright pathetic, honestly. And that's why you saw the Austin Stogners of the world transfer out. And so I think Levy uses the tight end more, so you're going to get to see that. That's number one. Number two, where does he fit? Like I said, I think that's where the questions remain. Can he fit into what Oklahoma's doing? Can he keep his weight down? Because once he starts in that nutrition system, it's not like he's going to get fat or anything. It's he's going to build up muscle. He's a really, really good athlete, and he's really well put together already. So those type of kids that generally put on a good 15, 20 pounds, and if you're already 205, 210, that's 225, 230, and you're at tight end. The same question is Morgan Pearson at Ardmore Plainview. He's going through the same thing, except for he's decided, I'm going to play linebacker now. And we all think he's going to blow up once he starts going to all these camps. So, and Oklahoma could be one of those schools that comes around and offers him, but they're going to have to wait and see how his senior tape goes. So, look, Oklahoma's in good shape on the recruiting trail. They're doing a really good job of, one, not pressuring the guys. Number two, they're balancing out. Obviously, they have the One Oklahoma NIL collective that's out there that there's some question marks about. And I think we can all agree about that. But at the same time, it's out there. So it's benefiting Oklahoma in that aspect. Number two, you're going to have more collectives come out. Probably by fall, you'll probably have a couple more, I would assume. So there's people doing things behind the scene, or at least trying to do things behind the scenes. I know we're working on some things as far as how many players we can, establish an NIL contract with and whatnot to do things with OU insiders. So there's people doing things. There's people doing much broader things in OU Insider, obviously. So we'll just have to see where it goes from there. But I think obviously Champion Barbecue is coming up, and I think that is going to be the big momentum shift for Oklahoma, where you're going to start seeing, instead of kids, the big name kids taking visits to Oklahoma. Yeah, they're still going to be taking, like Parker, you just said, they're going to be taking visits. They're returning. The Derek LeBlancs of the world, the Peyton Kirklands of the world, all those guys will be returning. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of, can they get that commitment? And when they get that commitment, does it build that momentum? Does it start the avalanche, that snowball effect that can start the June and July that we've been hinting at, that we feel like is going to happen for OU at some point or the other? Because even the second week of June, there's some big names showing up on campus those weekends. So June is going to be, across the whole landscape of college football, massive, because everybody wants to commit before the season starts. So Parker, I ask you this. Who do you predict will be the next 4 commits for OU in 2023 and or 2024? Just 4 commits across the board. And somebody knocked on my door, so I'll be right back. You're on mute, buddy.
I'm on mute? Oh, okay. I was on mute. Interesting. Okay, I'll kill time. No, so I think, as I think about who the next 4 commits are going to be, I feel like we've been saying David Stone for months. And so I'm hesitant to throw David Stone's name out there again, because I'm just like, well, we've been waiting for so long. Is it really going to happen as soon as we think it's going to happen? But I don't think it's any secret that David Stone's heavily favoring Oklahoma, and he said as much. You hop in any Twitter space with the guy, he refers to Oklahoma as we. Right? He's not keeping anything close to the vest in that regard. So in my mind, that is a matter of when, not if. I'm not going to list him among the next 4, though, just because I feel like we've been waiting so long. Now it's just kind of a question of, well, when is it going to happen?
It's a boy cried wolf situation at this point.
Exactly. So I'm going to say the next 4 commits. I'm going to start with Caden Green. I think he has been very pro OU, very high on OU for quite some time. And I've kind of reflected that belief in my coverage of his recruitment. So he's certainly in the first 4 for me. Beyond that, man, you made a big move with Anthony Evans. That's on the table. Maybe. It all comes down to, okay, which of these kids,
which I'll have information on, by the way, tomorrow morning for everybody. So I got something for that. So thank you, Parker.
No, it boils down to which of these kids do you trust is going to shut it down soon? Because, for instance, a kid like Malachi Coleman, whom Oklahoma is very, very high on. I mean, they would love to get Malachi Coleman in Crimson and Cream and in Norman. But he's come out and said he's not going to be signing, or he's not going to be committing until he signs in December on early signing day. So that is one where there's really no chance that it's going to get wrapped up anytime soon. So you kind of have to, these kind of have to be judgment calls to a certain extent. Not only do you have to be looking at the kids that Oklahoma's trending in the right direction for, but you got to figure out which of these kids are going to be eager to shut things down. Which of them are going to be willing to just say, okay, I've seen all I need to see. I'm committing to Oklahoma. So for that reason, I think Caden Green is 1A for me. 1B is Jacoby Johnson. And again, that's kind of a boy cried wolf situation, to quote your analogy there, Brandon, because it feels like Jacoby Johnson has been on the precipice of committing to Oklahoma for like a year now. But in talking to people that know that situation well, and obviously being as close as you are to Mustang High School, Brandon, you know that situation as well as anybody. Things are getting pretty close there with Jacoby Johnson. And that's one that you can foresee wrapping up in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
So those are the two that I'd start with. From there, it's really hard to project when you look at the rest of this class of 2023. You have the commitment date for Derek LeBlanc and Peyton Kirkland set on July 23rd. So OU is going to be in the mix for those two. And so maybe by late July, OU signs a couple more, or gets commitments from a couple more 4-stars rather. But I tend to believe they'll have 4 more commits before then. I'm going to throw PJ Adebawore in there. And that's subject to change because he just got a couple of pretty high profile new offers, got a Nebraska offer, got a Florida State offer, got a Texas A&M offer. So there are more schools jumping in the boat for him, but OU's his favorite school right now. And they've done a good job establishing a lead in his recruitment. And as long as things continue to trend where they're currently trending, I don't see any way PJ Adebawore won't be a Sooner. Because everything he values is everything the Sooner staff has provided to him and offered him. So it's a very natural fit there in my eyes. So I guess that gives me 3. And if I had to pick a 4th, see, I want to say Dylan Edwards, but something tells me that one might be a little bit more of a process than people are counting on. So I'm going to resist the urge to go with him. I honestly think, okay, here is the 4th player that I'll throw out there. And it's a kid that just got an offer today, Jackson McGowan, out of the state of Ohio.
Okay.
Because he's going to take an official visit to Oklahoma. That's on the schedule for him already. That was on the schedule for him even before he got the offer because he knew it was coming. And he knew OU was a place he wanted to visit. When you look at the other schools that are going to go toe-to-toe with Oklahoma for McGowan's commitment, it's pretty blatantly obvious that OU is the most prestigious offer he has. The other official visits he plans, or that he has planned right now, to my recollection, are Cincinnati, which is where he's currently committed, but I see no way that sticks, Pitt, and then Kentucky. So OU's going up against those 3. Of course, the shoe that everybody's kind of waiting to see if it drops is the offer from Ohio State. And if McGowan gets the Ohio State offer, then you've got a battle on your hands. But here's what I do know is that Oklahoma is willing to let McGowan kind of play that hybrid wide receiver, tight end, split out wide and play inline some type of role. Very much the same vision that they have for Caden Helms, kind of the same usage that you saw from Austin Stogner, for instance. He was a guy that, sure, he would play in line, but he would also go split out wide quite a bit. And it seems the Sooners are going to do the same thing this year with Braden Willis. Ohio State, on the other hand, from what I understand, they're a lot more inclined to just make McGowan into a traditional inline guy, which is very much conducive to what Ohio State's offensive scheme has historically been. So from my perspective, I think McGowan is probably going to want to succumb to Oklahoma's vision for him more so than Ohio State's vision for him. So I would say the Sooners still have an awesome shot at him, even if he gets that Ohio State offer. So if he takes the official visit in the earlier stages of the summer, sometime in June, for instance, man, I can see him shutting it down. I can.
Yeah. You brought up some really interesting guys. I think Caden Green, is the obvious one for both of us right off the bat. I'm going to go Jacoby Johnson as well because, look, I talk to Jacoby all the time, and usually, sometimes if I don't talk to him within, a couple of weeks, he'll be hitting me up like, "Bro, where you at? Like, what are you doing? You haven't been by our school in a while." So it's like one of those deals just because I'm up there all the time because of my kids. But literally yesterday, actually. So yeah, those are my two. Jacoby's going to visit Stanford here pretty soon, and I think after Stanford, you're going to get him nailing down kind of his top 4 or 5 schools publicly, which I can name them for you, but that's his place, not mine. And then after that, I think the Champion Barbecue. So he's going to so they got their team camp during the day. It's going to go 10 to 1 during the weekend of the Champion Barbecue. And they do it every Memorial Day weekend or right after Memorial Day weekend. And Memorial Day, I think, falls on like a Thursday or Friday this year. So it's going to be, or not Memorial, excuse me. The after Memorial Day weekend. They always do it after Memorial Day. Obviously Memorial falls on a Monday every time, but usually they do it on like a Thursday or Friday. They're going to do it on a Saturday, Sunday. That's what I meant to say. And it's changed up. So they're going to, or Friday, Saturday, they're going to go 10 to 1 Friday, 10 to 1 Saturday. And then it's done. So you're going to have teams like Midwest City, Muskogee, like I'm just naming names, like the big name programs, McGinnis, although they always show up down there. And so he'll be at that during the day, and then the Champion Barbecue in the afternoon, evening. So I say all that because if he's going to take that as an official, he's going to have to be a late official arrivee, which actually could work in Oklahoma's favor because he can be there by himself for the most part, or with a smaller group of people come Monday, because it's that 48 or hour stint that you're allowed to stay there. So if he arrives on his, it is official, like on Saturday at like 3 p.m., 4 p.m., he gets to stay till Monday till 4 p.m. So, and literally he'll get to stay there till 4 p.m. because he lives in Mustang and he doesn't have to catch a flight or anything like that. So it could actually work in Oklahoma's favor and actually in the process, like you were saying. So I think that can be really critical for Oklahoma. The Champion Barbecue 100% is going to be critical for a variety of reasons, which we're going to dive into over the next few weeks. But those two in particular, I would go down that route. I'm going to say it, and people are going to think I'm crazy. And I'm not saying he's one of the 4. I want to get this out there because I don't know. I think Miami and Florida are going to be so hard to beat in this aspect for both these guys. But come July 23rd, I don't think anybody across the nation now will be shocked if Derek LeBlanc announced that he was going to Oklahoma or Peyton Kirkland. I don't think any one of those two, if those two announce that they're committing to Oklahoma on July 23rd, nobody across the nation would go, "Oh my gosh, that's shocking." Not anymore. I think if that would have been said in January and hell, even March, I think that would be considered shocking. I don't think that's considered shocking to anybody at this point. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. And
yeah,
again, Brandon, it's something we continue to talk about. Yes, there is a strong case for Miami and there's a strong case for Florida in all of this, but it takes a lot more effort, a lot more time, and a lot more money to visit Oklahoma than it does for those two to visit Miami or Florida. That tells you something.
And Derek LeBlanc again is returning on June 1st through June 5th, or June 2nd through June 5th, excuse me. Again, on an unofficial visit. It's not an official visit. OU insider, OU fans, you'll know before everybody else when the official visit's going to happen in Oklahoma, I promise. His dad, Ricardo, who is probably watching or listening, hello, bud. We always give the shout out every time because he will text me in the middle of this and say, thanks for bringing us up, you know? So we always give the shout out. So yeah, he told me the other day, again, reiterated, it is not an official visit to Oklahoma. So that'll be unofficial. He came in January, twice in March, once in April. So that'll be unofficial number 5 since the end of January to Oklahoma. That's good news for OU fans. That's good news for OU fans. So, yeah, I don't think anybody would be shocked if Derek LeBlanc is a part of the OU class. I'm not naming him as one of the 4, though. I will say that. The other guys I would name, however, I'm going to go Michael Harrison-Pilot. I think now I know he's got relationships with the Houston staff that go deep and, you know, all of that. But I think at the end of the day, his closeness with Jackson Arnold, his closeness with Ashton Kozart, I think that ends up playing a massive role in his decision. And the other guy, I'm going to go Picchiotti. I'm throwing a curveball out there.
Whoa, Brandon.
Yeah.
That is a curveball.
Yeah. It's a curveball, but I'm hearing that Penn State's not pressing overly hard for him. I think it's because they think they have him locked up. Now, I could be totally off on this. I don't know that they're – how do I want to put this? They're recruiting him hard, but I don't think they're recruiting him like Oklahoma and Brent Venables have been. Like, he's already shown up. He's already shown up, 3 times on unofficial? He showed up twice since Venables has been here. He showed up once in October when Muleshoe was here, and he's coming back for his official for the Champion Barbecue. Again, like you said, that takes a lot of time and effort to make that happen from Pennsylvania. So, yeah, it's going to be really hard to beat out Penn State, but I'm calling it. I'm calling my shot.
That's a take there, Brandon. Like
there
are very few times in the history of this live series where I can recall you sticking your neck out like you just did, because most everybody figures, well, you know, he's a Pennsylvania kid. He's not leaving Pennsylvania. But
especially
I agree with you,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you in that kid takes 3 unofficial visits on his own dime to Oklahoma. It's worth paying attention to.
I'm calling it. It's my bold take, and that's going to be – I think he's going to be one of the 4. If I was going to have an outlier there as far as kind of the 5th guy, oh, man, who would it be? I would venture to probably go with probably Anthony Evans. Anthony Evans would be my other one. And look, and I know this is another one. I'll throw another curveball out there. And I've said this time and again, I will not be shocked. Look, I've said that I think Peyton Bowen sticks with Notre Dame. I still am probably 55-60% leaning there. But if he does, in fact, take the official visit that he hinted towards me to for the Champion Barbecue, if that does happen, because remember, he wasn't going to take official visits, and I think people need to remember that. Those official visits weren't going to happen. If that does, in fact, take place, I'm calling my shot and saying that is when the flip happens, if it happens.
I figure if he does take the OV to Oklahoma, Notre Dame's not going to be too thrilled about that either.
No,
And
no,
they might tell him at that point, why don't you just go ahead?
Yeah, I think that's there. Look, I talked to somebody that knows Notre Dame through and through, has spent plenty of time around the program over the last 15 years or so. Yeah, I think you know who I'm talking about. They've been around a variety of programs over the last 15 years, but they've been with Notre Dame, around Notre Dame, longer than they have been anywhere else. And I was talking to this person, a source, and essentially there's a feeling around Notre Dame from what they gathered and what they told me that they're kind of on edge with the Bowen thing, kind of like, man, he keeps showing up to Oklahoma. He just keeps coming. It would be one thing if he was taking visits to numerous different places, which he has. He's been to LSU, he's been to Texas A&M. Like he's visited those places once, but he's literally been to Oklahoma like 3 or 4 times since he's committed to Notre Dame. And at that point in time, that's where it kind of gets kind of edgy. If you're Notre Dame and your staff, you're kind of like, okay, we got to keep recruiting somebody else because this doesn't feel right now. Like it feels like he's telling us, and it feels like he kind of wants to think he wants to be at Notre Dame, and I think that's kind of where he's at. And again, at the end of the day, I think he likes Notre Dame, loves Coach. Look, I think Marcus Freeman, I think he's done a miraculous job with Peyton Bowen. I think nobody has recruited him like that, like as far as like the head coach diving in there. But sometimes distance plays a massive role in this stuff, especially when you got a brother who is right behind you the very next year and has that offer 2 hours from you. You both can play on the same team. And you got a single mom.
Yeah. It's interesting. I would say Notre Dame and Oklahoma probably have the 2 head coaches that are the most active in terms of recruiting in the entire country. And if they're not at the top of the list, they're very high up there in Marcus Freeman and Brent Venables. And put yourself, if you're trying to look at this Peyton Bowen situation with a clear head with regard to what all these repeated visits to Oklahoma really signify, consider for a moment if, to use a very relevant recent example, what if Jackson Arnold, while committed to Oklahoma, repeatedly visited Texas A&M? What would that tell you about where that recruitment was headed?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma fans have been through that time and again. Look, I'm trying to think of a really good analogy recently that's happened where we were all like, hey, just a visit. And it ends up flipping. Can you think of one off the top of your head that's happened? It's happened to Oklahoma fans because I know they're like, they have PTSD. And I guarantee in the comments, somebody's going to bring it up. Somebody's going to bring one of those up that's been like similar to that situation, and they're just going to trigger the PTSD. So I can't think of a name right off the top of my head, but Malik Brown's a pretty good one. But and Dindy doesn't count, Sean. Like that doesn't count. He lost his coaches. Like doesn't count. Raleek is the same way. Like Raleek, if he was going wherever Lincoln Riley was going to be, Dennis Simmons. That's a fact. Dindy was going wherever Thibodeau was going to be because he loved Calvin Thibodeau. The family loved Calvin Thibodeau. That was where that was going. And they loved Oklahoma, but the rug got pulled out from underneath them last second, right before National Signing Day. He went with what he was comfortable with. And you can't blame a kid for that. He was going to sign with Oklahoma. Like, to this day, I talked to an A&M person the other day about that exact thing. And they're like, they were sweating because they were like, oh, we lost him. That was like their top guy outside of Walker or Walters. And like, they were sweating that. They're like, that kid was going to Oklahoma. They're like, thank you, Lincoln Riley. So the gift that keeps on giving. So, yeah, people got questions, man. They got questions. Jace McClellan, that is a really good one. That's a really good analogy. That's probably the perfect one, actually, because he kept taking visits to Alabama. That is a perfect analogy. Okay. Parker. Let's see here. I guess people want to know. I'm trying to find a really good. Is there any chance that Trey Wisner flips back to Oklahoma? You go first. I'll go second because I got a name everybody needs to kind of think about here.
I wouldn't hold your breath. That's the best way I can put it. Is it an impossibility? No. Would I consider it likely at this time? Also no.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you're done. Okay,
yeah,
that was quick and to the point. Okay, I was like,
I mean, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on
like,
that situation, so I figure, you know what, answer the question, just let the rest slide.
I'll do it for you. When he moved to DeSoto, I think the writing was on the wall that he was going to Texas. But I don't think anybody saw it. I know I didn't see it. It didn't even cross my mind to even think like that. But now that, hindsight's 2020, that should have been kind of the telltale sign that things weren't going the way Oklahoma wanted them to go. Because he kept saying over and over, I'm going to announce October on my mom's birthday. And he kept saying it. And he kept telling people around the program, this is from speaking to numerous people that know the situation. Don't worry, guys. Don't worry. I'm locked in, man. Don't worry about it. I'm going to announce. Don't worry about it. And Texas kept going. My light just went out. Texas just kept going more and more as far as being able to get in with him and his family, all that. Now, I will say this. There are people around him that still want him at Oklahoma. The other question remains is, will Oklahoma press for him? Because I think there's a name you need to watch. Sorry, guys, I give up on that light. Dalen Smothers is another name that I would watch out for if I am a Oklahoma fan. I think Oklahoma feels like they're in pretty decent position for Dalen Smothers. Now, they got to get the visit taken care of and all that type of stuff, and they got to recruit him. To get him out of North Carolina is not going to be easy. But he does hell. I think he did move to the same school that produced Jeremiah Hall, if I remember it correctly off the top of my head. So that could work in Oklahoma's favor, number one. Number two, I know Richard Young's kind of an Ohio State, Alabama battle, but there is some quiet confidence coming out of Norman with Richard Young. And he is taking an official visit to Oklahoma in June. Now, having said all of that to you guys, if you get your hopes up for that, that's your fault. Because just don't. Just don't. Just don't. Do not get your hopes up because it's probably no. I would bet a lot of money it's not happening.
Yeah, like I set yourself up to be pleasantly shocked and awed if Richard Young ends up a Sooner.
Yeah. But I think pleasantly is an understatement. I would say utterly shocked and awed. But I don't know. Those are the guys that I would go with as far as okay, what's another good question here? Stacey Gage update. Did he ever announce his? I didn't see it. I've been traveling today, so
he has not made an announcement yet.
No. Here's the deal, guys, and I probably need a recheck up on it to make sure it's going to go down in this manner before I dove completely into it. But I would say if you're thinking it's a list, you're thinking it's a commitment or anything of that nature, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing greener pastures could be in his horizon, if you will. And that's about as much as
what pastures are greener than IMG, Brandon?
Well, I'm not getting into the rest of that, but that's kind of where that's what I'm hearing. Now, if he ends up if he ends up, I'm trying to think of another farm analogy. I can't for like sticking around. If he doesn't end up doing what we all think he's going to do, or we're hearing he's going to do, then you probably won't hear an announcement at all, and everything will just kind of be swept under the rug. So we'll see. And no, I can't really dive into why he would want to do that. Somebody asked, do you think OU goes to the portal to get a QB2? If so, do you have in mind? And I told you they were going to ask that, and we were talking about that exact question when we were talking about the production of this earlier, and we were like, we probably should know some names, but we haven't heard a specific name. That's the problem. Like, we haven't heard like one specific name that Oklahoma's going after this, or Oklahoma's going through that. You know who I think would be who was the QB that was at Texas A&M and went to Arizona?
Texas A&M.
Gunner
went to Arizona.
Gunner.
You talking about Grant
yeah.
Gunnell,
or Gunner Gunnell, or whatever his name is. Yeah.
He ended up at Memphis, I want to say.
Yeah, he did. But is he has there been buzz about him in the portal again? Somebody brought that name up to me the other day.
Yes. He entered the transfer portal again yesterday.
Okay. So I'm gonna say him. And this is why.
Oh boy. Here we go.
No, listen. Who was his
listening.
center? Who was his center at A&M in Arizona?
Robert Conjal.
Okay, I'm done.
And he never was at A&M, I don't believe.
No, his brother was. That's right. His brother was, right?
Yes.
Okay, but the family knew. Yeah, that's where. Yeah. Okay. Well, who was his center at Arizona? Okay, Robert Conjal. There you go. I'm done. That is a name for QB2, and I think you can win ball games with him as a QB2. Like, nobody's asking him to come in and play the whole season or anything. You're knocking on wood there that I said that. So, but yeah, that I think if you were going to guess, I think it would be somebody like that, somebody that's willing to come in and back up, because they played in multiple places, they've started in multiple places, and now maybe they're just, chasing a title potentially, or a conference title or something of that nature, and they're willing to come in and back up and be a team guy, and a guy that could come in and win you ball games if called upon again, knock on wood, because if OU wants to compete for a national title, Dillon Gabriel's got to be your dude. So I think that's where you're at this point, and it's going to be hard to find somebody that's going to want to come in and be like, yeah, I'll sit behind him, unless that person has like 3 years left and they know Dillon Gabriel's only going to be around a year or two, which means they would have a chance to start at the University of Oklahoma for at least a year. And that's really all you need at OU if you've got professional aspirations, is one good season. So there's kind of a juggling act there. What would be another good name that you think Oklahoma should go after?
One that, couple guys that we know are on the radar at Oklahoma are Emory Jones, obviously from Florida, and then Chance Amy, who's at Blinn College right now, the same JUCO that produced Cam Newton down in College Station, Texas. I believe it also is where Josh Ellison made a stopover before he came to OU as well. But again, this is not something I don't think anybody's expecting an immediate resolution on. This is obviously going to be a hot topic of conversation over the next couple of weeks, but you got coaches out on the road right now. Brent Venables is just wrapping up exit meetings with his guys. They're still dealing with the hassle of getting guys paperwork processed to enter the transfer portal and get them outbound. So there's a lot of bowling pins in the air right now for this Sooner staff. I would expect it'll be a little while before you have a clear answer as to who Oklahoma is targeting and or trending for in terms of transfers. And that's not exclusive to the quarterback position, but I do think they're going to be especially intentional with trying to figure out who they're bringing in at the quarterback position, because it's also going to take a special kind of person, right? Because most of these quarterbacks that are hitting the portal, i.e. Emory Jones, Gary Bohannon, Grant Gunnell, what have you, a lot of these guys are entering the portal because there's no guarantee that they're ever going to start again at the institution that they're at right now. So a guy like that hits the portal, you figure, okay, he's hitting the portal so he can go find somewhere where he can start on a full-time basis and where he can be guaranteed to be the guy. It's not going to be as easy to convince a player like that to come to Oklahoma and step into a situation where he is very obviously QB2. And this is Dillon Gabriel's job, and you are an insurance policy, especially in the era of NIL. It's going to take a very specific type of person to fill that role. So that may be a bit more deliberate of a process than I think some folks are anticipating.
Jerry Bohannon's one I actually think could be a potential fit. I think he's not the greatest thrower, but you know what? A lot of the guys that Jeff Lebby has gotten his hands on in the last 3 years weren't really considered great throwers at one point in time in their career. So he just had one go to the NFL that was known as kind of a gunslinger that wasn't very accurate. And so Dillon Gabriel wasn't considered the most accurate human being coming out of high school. So I think there is a lot of development that could be done there, but he fits as far as the athleticism needed to run Jeff Lebby's system, and he's got enough youth in him and years left that, right, he's got 3 years, right? Correct? Am I correct on that? 3?
Gabriel, yes.
No, not Gabriel. I know we know Gabriel does, but Bohannon has 3, right? Jerry Bohannon?
No, Bohannon? No, I want to say he has
4.
I think he only has 2.
2? Really?
Yeah,
Dude,
I could be wrong on that.
Around that long? Man, it feels like just yesterday that was like a big deal when they got him out of Arkansas, because everybody thought he was going to be a hog. I can remember that like it was yesterday. The year now, they all start running together after a while. But
I think I was wrong, Brandon. I think he only has 1 year of eligibility left.
Oh, okay. So I'm off. Yeah, he is definitely not coming up. So I was thinking maybe he could be that guy that. Well, does he have? He's got the COVID year too, though, right? So he could have 2.
No, I think he's only got 1.
Okay, well, then you guys go ahead and just retract everything I just said. Just go ahead and retract it. On to the next question.
I'm checking on his participation chart just so I can make sure. But yeah, I think he's only going to have 1 year. No, he'll have 2. He'll have 2.
Okay. Well, then, maybe you do. You say, look, you come in and be the backup 1 year. Dillon Gabriel goes off to the league. And because, look, I was told DG kind of wants to come in, do his thing, and then head off. And in a perfect world, that's where he's looking at. Now, could it be a 2-year deal for him? And this is why, in a perfect world, this is what he does, because he puts up big numbers. He's still only going to be 5'11", 6 foot. Like, that's not going to change. Like, everything about him physically is not going to change. So he is what he is as far as draft aspects go. So if you can convince a Jerry Bohannon, like, hey, man, look, come in, sit behind him, be our number 2 for 1 year, let him put up some big numbers, we'll develop you a little bit more, and then you're the dude going into the SEC. Now, that's kind of scary to talk about because he's not the most accurate human being in the world. But we've also seen that develop year to year and completely change. I mean, Jason White wasn't considered, a great thrower, and then he turned himself into a standalone pocket passer. So, I mean,
he had to.
It can be done. He had to, but it can be done is my point. So, yeah, I think all in all, that would be kind of a good fit. People are asking Jackson Arnold or Nick Evers, who is the starter for 2023?
It's hard to project right now because Jackson Arnold has another year of high school, and yeah, that's almost putting the cart before the horse. Yeah. Because I think the answer could very legitimately be neither. What if Dillon Gabriel decides to come back another year? Or what if Oklahoma decides, you know what, we don't want to rush either of these guys along. Let's go the same route that we did in 2019 and bring in a 1-year stopgap. High impact transfer at the quarterback position, whom we know is only going to be here for 1 year, but that we know we can rely on him while Evers and Arnold get to develop in the system, and we don't have to rush their progression. So, like I said, I think there's a very legitimate chance the answer is neither. If I had to, if you put a gun to my head and made me project right now, I would say I think Arnold fits Levy's system a little bit better than Evers. And I think that has to do with his mobility more than anything else. That is the one aspect of the game where I think Evers has some work to do. Not just mobility, because look, there's only so much work you can do. Either you can move or you can't. And some quarterbacks are just naturally more bent towards being pocket guys than being guys that can scramble around and make plays on the run. So Evers and Arnold are different quarterbacks in that regard. But I also just think Evers has a long way to go in terms of his pocket awareness and being able to feel the rush coming and react accordingly and move accordingly. And we don't know how Arnold is going to handle that type of pressure and that type of situation at the collegiate level as well. So I think that's one of the things that's a little harder to project, but I do think the tools that Arnold brings to the table are probably a little bit more conducive to Jeff Levy's offense than Evers. So I would give the slight edge to Arnold, but look, I feel like I've been saying it for months now. You're going to have a really compelling quarterback battle, regardless of what the situation looks like in 2023, unless Gabriel comes back. That is the one scenario in which I think, okay, for sure who your starter is. But even if you bring in a transfer, what are the odds you get a guy like Jalen Hurts, right? You don't have one of those dudes in the portal every single year. It's not every year a Spencer Rattler decides he needs another season to rehab his draft stock and decides to hit the portal. So even if you bring in a transfer, that guy could start, Evers could start, Arnold could start. Could be any one of the three. You're going to have a really, really interesting battle for the starting quarterback position if Gabriel is done after a year come the spring of 2023.
And you could potentially be going into the SEC. So that's just not the most ideal situation if you're Brent Venables and Jeff Levy. Not ideal at all. I guess finally, let's close this out by talking a little NFL draft real quick, and then we'll get out of here. 7 draft picks, 2021 team. And they somehow found a way to lose to. And there's numerous other draft picks, by the way, on that team. Like there's a couple first rounders, that are coming up through the system. And 2021. What a year for OU fans, right? What a year for the program. And to see where a guy like Perion Winfrey wins the Senior Bowl MVP and yet falls to the 4th round? I mean, who saw that coming? I know I didn't.
I don't think you will find a single draft expert across the country.
No, they were saw shocked.
Yeah. It's just been a weird year, man. We think back to a year ago, for instance, and you were figuring, okay, Spencer Rattler's for sure a first-round draft pick. Nick Benito's probably a first-round draft pick. Perion Winfrey could be a first-round draft pick. Isaiah Thomas could be a first-round draft pick. There was a chance that Oklahoma could have had as many as 4 based on what some folks were projecting at this time a year ago. It's just, the rocky road that stood in between that time period and where we are today just took so many twists and turns. And ultimately, I think the Browns got really good value, not just with Perion Winfrey in round 4, but with Isaiah Thomas in round 7. I think those two are both guys that can and will make the 53-man roster and have the opportunity to be impact guys at the NFL level. I love Nick Bonito to the Broncos. I know you do too, Brandon. And even more than that, I love Delarian Turner-Yell to the Broncos. And
yeah, hey, that was a good draft. I get to actually cheer.
Yeah,
I like you inside. You always cheer for these guys because you know them, but like we can't actively cheer. But like I get to let's go Bronco country, baby. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and I get the sense Trouble's going to be in the league a long, long time, a lot longer than a lot of the other players that were taken in similar proximity to where he was in that 5th round. And Nick Bonito, man, he grew up idolizing Von Miller, and now he gets the opportunity to be the next Von Miller. And you know what else? You know what else is funny? He got drafted with the pick that the Broncos got in the Von Miller trade. So
that's
really
awesome.
Really cool situation all the way around for Nick Bonito. But I think it was a surprise to a lot of people that Kennedy Brooks didn't get drafted. Obviously, nothing really jumps out about him when you look at the measurables and you look at the numbers, but you also just take a look at the production, man. And it's like, what hasn't this guy done? 7 yards per carry, 3 1,000-yard seasons, has never fumbled in his collegiate career. What more does he have to do? So that's a guy that's going to have a little bit extra chip on his shoulder going to Philadelphia, where he gets to reunite with Jalen Hurts and Grant Calcaterra. So
yeah,
I figured Kennedy Brooks is going to latch on somewhere. If not in Philadelphia, he'll find a landing spot, because at the end of the day, say what you will about the measurables and the slower than average 40 time. That's a guy that just gets it. He just understands how to play the running back position, how to find space, and how to create it. And he's going to be successful at the next level. He might not ever be 1,000-yard type of guy, but he'll carve out his niche in the NFL. The one guy that hasn't been signed yet is Gabe Burkage. I think he's the only Sooner that has not either been drafted or signed an undrafted free agent contract.
Which is so weird, right? Like he was one of the best kickers in college football. He's just sitting out there, like just
the burrito man, the burrito incident.
Yeah. Well, hey, I kind of, my gut feeling is that he's mulling over a bunch of offers. That's my gut feeling.
I think that could be the case. Could also just be that teams aren't really prioritizing going out and finding a kicker to come into camp and compete. But with as much volatility as there is at the kicker position year to year and week to week in the NFL, Gabe Burkage is going to get his shot at some point. That's not a question. But when you're a kicker, you really got to make the most of that opportunity, because one bad performance can end your career. And that's not hyperbolic when you're talking about kickers.
No. And people always come up with this narrative of such and such should have stuck around another year or blah, blah, blah. He is actually the one person I would sit back and say, probably Perion Winfrey, 2 guys. I could probably sit there and say, without question, they probably should have come back for another season. Only because, but again, hindsight's 2020. Nobody saw that coming. I think nobody saw that coming. Perion Winfrey has all the ability in the world. I think a year under Venable's system, he skyrockets up because it fits what he does. Shoots gaps, uses his athleticism, uses his strength, and he'll have a technician as his coach in, Coach Bates. So I think he's one guy you can sit back. I think those are the 2 guys, if you're going to sit there and say, yeah, return. Other people that everybody wants to say, well, this person should, or, Larry Turner-Yell or Nick Bonito. No, Nick Bonito was never going to be a first rounder. Like, he just wasn't.
No,
So
it was size and frame concerns, and you don't
yes,
really overcome those on draft day.
and
Second round was his ceiling, and he got drafted in the second round.
there you go. So it worked out perfect for him. It worked out perfect for a couple of guys. I mean, Mike Woods is Mike. I could have returned and maybe should have, but he's never going to be a guy that separates down the field from anybody. Like that's not who he is. So him being drafted later on, that's okay. That's what he was going to be, no matter if he stuck around a year or didn't. So I think those are the only two guys you could actually question and come out and say. And I think Burkitt more than anybody probably should. And I think we all said that then. We're like, man, because he was one of the better kickers in college football, but he got a little inconsistent at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think he left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and that doesn't do you any favors when you're a kicker. His pro day also was not great. He did not have a great pro day performance. The other guy I think you can make an interesting case for is Kennedy Brooks. And more than anything else, that's just because you're looking at next year's class of running backs and saying, okay, well, maybe Kennedy Brooks has a better chance to be higher on the totem pole next year than he does this year. But in terms of production, there's not a whole lot. There wasn't a whole lot left for that guy to do at the collegiate level, right? Like if he comes back another year, he has a chance to become the first 4-time 1,000-yard rusher in school history.
Wear and tear on body
and set the school rushing record. But yeah, wear and tear, especially for a running back, that comes into play. And what are you really going to put on tape that you haven't already?
Nothing. He is what he is. Like that, all those guys that were drafted in certain spots, like even now, I think in Isaiah Thomas maybe should have been drafted a little higher. And we all think we all think Perrion Winfrey should have. But Isaiah didn't put up great numbers. And like, I can't remember if it was Todd McShay or whoever was doing the breakdown. They said, numbers notwithstanding, it doesn't matter about him. He's got great instincts, and he has a plan when he goes to pass rush, and he knows how to set with his hands. He's really good with his hands. He knows how to set the offensive lineman up to make a move and counter every move that they do. So that's what's going to make him great in the league is his ability to use his length, use his athleticism. He's not the most twitchy person, but he still is a great athlete. He's a really good basketball player. He's got great athleticism and great feet and really good hands, got a good strong punch for a person of his size, and he's really smart. So I think when you add all that together, that could really be a long career for him and a decent career. I'm not saying Pro Bowl or anything like that. I'm not also discounting and saying he won't make Pro Bowl because honestly, every year he was the guy that shocked me and I was like, oh man, I don't know if he can get much better than he did. And he would just take that next step. He'd take another step. So who knows what's going to happen there with Isaiah? I think he's just a special kid all the way around. I think that should do it, man. I want to appreciate everybody for listening to this episode of the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. Again, if you're not signed up, you've got for OU Insider 60% off, which means $42 gets you about $116 worth in value as far as OU Insider goes, which means you get all 247 sites. You get to go peruse and look and see what all these other fan bases and programs are doing and be in the know. You can be the smartest college football person in the world because 247 allowing you to do that type of stuff. On top of that, we have the best national guys there is in the country. Steve Wilfong, Brandon Huffman, Greg Biggins, Brian Doan, Andrew Ivins, Alan True, Gabe Brooks. I'm trying to think of all the guys. I can't think of them all, but they're great. And you get that on OU Insider 247 Sports. Plus, you get all of our daily information. We bring daily notes all the time. I got some great nuggets coming tomorrow. Going to be talking about the Allen Trio, a couple 5-stars there. I'm going to be talking about some running back recruiting. I'm going to be talking about I got the notes down here. I got a lot of notes coming for y'all. So it's coming tomorrow. Be sure you're there. When it's it, and I've been traveling around. I'll be traveling around the state of Georgia. I'll be traveling around Texas. I'll be traveling around the state of Oklahoma. I'll be traveling around Florida at the end of May. So be sure that you're on OU Insider leading up to the Champion Barbecue. and then all the camps that we're going to be going to as well. Like Parker and I are going to be busy bringing y'all some news and notes throughout the off-season stuff as well. Team nuggets, how they're doing in 7-on-7, how they're doing in workouts, fall camp for Inventable's first season, National Signing Day. You get all that encompassed in that $42, which is normally about $116. So sign up. End of the day, right here, you only got about another hour and a half or so. Hope to see you guys there. Want to thank you guys again for being there, because you guys have helped us grow leaps and bounds over the last 4 or 5 years and made us one of the biggest 247 sites that there is. So thank you guys so much. We can't do it without you. You guys have blessed us each and every day. So thank you so much. Parker, you got anything else?
I got nothing else, Brandon. Let's call it a wrap.
All right. For Parker Thune, for Spencer Forsythe, my name is Brandon Drumm. Thank you guys once again for listening to the OU Insider Under the Visor YouTube Live. You guys have a blessed day.